Tonight we have Dr. Oscar Githua. He is a forensic psychologist, one of the few in Africa. He's also a university professor. Thank you for joining us. And we also have, of course, Colonel Benjamin Mwema. He's a security expert, a pilot, as well as the Secretary General for Newford, Kenya. So both men who wear many hats. Thank you very much for being with us in studio as well. Let's begin with you, Colonel Mwema. And we're talking a little bit more about security, but from a personal point of view. And, you know, we've never seen a situation like this in the country before. Terrorists walking in, holding people at hostage. What should one do when in such a situation?
Thank you. The first thing we need to understand is that terrorists are very unstable human beings. That their main aim is to make as much terror as possible and make sure that everybody is scared as much as possible. So when you deal with them, you are dealing with unstable human beings who can do anything at any time. So you need to be very calm. If you are held hostage, you must be very calm. You must obey what they tell you, and you must not be seen to be doing anything that will agitate them, because at that point in time, they may do anything, including killing you. So it is important that we cooperate. Now, if someone, like we are told that there are people in the mall and you are lost, it is not advisable for you to start moving around, because you don't know which side the terrorists are. And so it is advisable to wait for the security forces, because they are in there and we know they have information that we don't have, so that they can come and find you and lead you to safety, because you may end up moving towards the wrong side and end up with the terrorists. So these are things that we must consider, but at the end of the day, it's really common sense and the sixth sense that keeps you running.
And this is obviously, you know, we're not saying this to preempt anything. It's really for people to know better next time. It's an unfortunate situation. Everyone was literally caught off guard. So it's a matter of what happens next time. I want to rope you in right now, Dr. Githua. The amount of trauma that we've seen, people who are directly affected, the others who have witnessed all of this, the pictures they've seen. Earlier on, I had a counselor as well in the studio, and we were talking a little bit about that. In your view, what do you think the first thing someone needs to do is in regards to immediately following a traumatic event? What should one do? One who's directly affected and those of us who've witnessed it and are indirectly affected.
Thank you very much, Janet, for that question. I think it's very important for us to know that if you have gone through it, it's definitely a very traumatizing situation, like you've alluded to. The first thing to make sure that you are is safe. I cannot emphasize that enough, to actually get out from the threat. Like the Colonel mentioned, terrorists are very unstable people. So if there is a way you can find yourself out of that situation, that's the first thing you have to do. The second thing you have to do, if you're actually affected, is to actually start taking care of yourself. Identifying a support system, seeing is there someone you know who can actually hold you, talk with you, make you feel like you're actually being listened to, and that's actually one of the best things you should do. Now, we also have people who are not directly involved in it. And for example, the rest of us who've been watching it on TV maybe, or some of us who've also been responding to the situation, one of the things we have to do is, first of all, realize that people are in control. The security forces are in control. To kind of get that reassurance that there is help, and we don't need to be anxious about the situation.
Tell me a little bit more about the trauma centers, just for the sake of informing members of the public.
Yes.
Do they need more help? Do they need volunteers? And where are these trauma centers right now where people can gain access and really begin to seek the help that they need? Okay,
right now the Red Cross is leading a really good concerted effort where we have a lot of psychologists, counselors, and also we're coordinating with the government of Kenya through the Ministry of Devolution and Planning, and we have counselors set up, first of all, at the Visa Oshwal Center, obviously because of its proximity to Westgate, to actually help people who are coming out from there. And then also we've have satellite places like in the hospitals where we're receiving our victims. The other reason is because we have families that we're actually working with over there. And I want to also emphasize, we've already trained professionals on the ground. We are there to listen. We are there to help. We know exactly what to do during the times for trauma. And you know that the Red Cross have done an amazing, amazing job. But Janet, let me emphasize that I cannot ask enough for people to donate and help, because even if we're many of us right now, we cannot sustain the kind of impact that we've seen.
So people should just come out in large numbers and just offer their support.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic.
Absolutely. Financial and otherwise.
Financial and otherwise.
Absolutely.
Let's take it back to you, Colonel Mema, and just taking a look again at the security. We've talked about in the event of a hostage situation, as a hostage, the security personnel on the other side, how should they respond? And perhaps a comment from you regarding what you've seen so far. I know it's a delicate situation, it's ongoing, we can't comment too much, but essentially how should security personnel respond in such a situation?
Thank you, Janet. Let me first of all commend our security forces.
Yes.
I think they have done a very good job. Their reaction has been measured. It has been based on the information that they are getting that we may not be privy to. So I think as Kenyans, we must lift our hearts for them and say thank you and wish them well as they continue with this very difficult situation, which is very complex. However, in future, and because these things may happen, and it's always a possibility that a terrorist attack will happen or something other disaster, I think we need to come up with a legislative format upon which we say, if something like this happens, this security agency and this one shall be involved, and this is going to be the command structure, this person is going to be in charge, so that we have a shorter reaction time, so that we can react to these situations more quickly and more effectively, so that we can, that way you save lives and you contain the situation much quicker, so that we don't end up with the protracted situations. But I want to say this. The way they have approached it, in my view, has been very good. They have done it in a measured way. They are trying to see that the interests of the hostages are taken care of. They don't act in haste and that endanger the lives of the hostages. So I think we need to commend them and say, hongera.
I want to ask you a question, and I'll rope you in to this particular question as well. Obviously, these terrorists have held some of these people for such a long period of time. We saw one of the gentlemen that we profiled who is still looking for his brother. So for those whose loved one may still be inside, when they're anxious, from a security point of view, what would you advise them to do? I want to ask him on a security and for you from a psychological point of view. But imagine someone whose brother or sister or just loved one is stuck in there. What do you advise them to do?
First of all, let me condole them and empathize with them, because it is a serious situation. But you see, as we stand now, this is a crime scene, and we know the security agents are in charge. So the emotions must be put aside, and we put ourselves in the position whereby, look, my brother, my mother, my sister, my daughter, my relative is in there. But for the purposes of giving the security agencies the time and space they need to operate professionally, we must all take a step back and give them the chance to operate, and also give them whatever information that we have that we think may help them in getting to know what is inside there. This information may not only come from relatives, it will come from the owners of the building. They'll give them the blueprints and they'll give them the things that are there. They'll be able to see what they can use to their advantage. So it is a common effort. Everybody must come in and help so that we can move forward together as a nation.
All right, of course, it's psychological, it's completely traumatic to be able to see that, and we can only empathize so much. In fact, you can't even put yourself in their position. No. What would you advise someone like that to do?
We've already been doing that, Janet, and the first thing we've been telling people is that the Red Cross have what they call tracing centers. You've been seeing through the many reports, and you've also been making some of those reports. The first thing you want to do is to call the Red Cross. The Red Cross have real-time information about who is where. When I say who is where, I mean who is in a hospital, who might still be missing, and all that stuff. The first place is just to, first of all, look for the correct information, number one. And number two, just to stay put. This is a very unusual situation, and to also know that it's okay to react the way they're reacting. I want to also piggyback what the Colonel said. You see, as the security officers are doing their work, that's why we're there. We're there for the other side of it. They don't want to be with the guys who are crying and looking for their people. That's what we're there for. We take them away so we can allow them to do their work. And that's the whole idea of the psychological first aid that we're offering.
Are you seeing it, are you seeing the results from this? I mean, you're dealing with these individuals right now over the last few days. What kind of results are you seeing from them? Do you get a sense that they're becoming more comforted, that they're starting to perhaps heal? Is that what you're seeing?
I'll give you the best way to wrap it up for you, Janet, and for the viewers is today we were working with some people from the KDF, and they actually gave us a quote that I want to carry as the spirit for my team and the people we were working with. They said, "You've really lifted our spirits. Keep doing what you're doing." And for me, coming from the security forces, I think that's a very big statement for psychology in this country, and also for this effort, both collaborating to actually help people heal, both physically and also emotionally. I think that's what's going on right now.
Okay.
You know, Janet, there's been this view from people that people in the disciplined forces don't require psychological support. No. They do. They are human beings just like us.
Absolutely.
And some of the things I imagine they are going through right in there are very traumatic. So I believe, Dr. Ari, at the end of this, you may need to sit down with them and also give them some psychological
support. Really, a debriefing for everything that you've experienced.
Even when you go to war, if you're not, and this is war, by the way, this is a terrorist war. If you're not properly prepared mentally and psychologically, you cannot effectively carry out your duties as a member of the disciplined forces.
And actually,
so we need to take that into context as we approach this
That's
issue.
a very important point. We certainly need to take that into consideration.
And actually, just to add on to that, the Ministry of Devolution and Planning actually told us that they already have their own counselors who are working with the forces and stuff like that. What we are offering them is more technocratic support. Because as we all know, security forces have their sensitive issues that they also want to talk about. We don't want to expose other people to that information, but what we're doing is we're coming and saying we're here for you. You are part of us. Just because you're wearing a uniform doesn't mean that you're not a Kenyan.
Or that you, exactly, that you're detached from.
Or you're not human.
Absolutely, and that's what we're trying to do.
That's the other assumption that you're not human. Gentlemen, we'll come back to this discussion in